This week, the war in Ukraine could take a defining turn. Zelensky is traveling around Europe. Kiev is getting more weapons. The preparations are in the final stages. Ukraine is gearing up to launch that much-awaited counteroffensive. Last week, Zelensky said he needs more time. He wanted more weapons too. He wanted his Western partners to speed up deliveries. It seems his wish has been granted now. The question, though, is what does he plan to do next? Where will he attack Russia? Will he strike deep inside Putin's territory? I ask because that's what reports say. They say Zelensky wants to be bold and aggressive, that he's identified clear targets. And before he strikes, he's basically canvassing for support, traveling across Europe. In the past few days, he's made 3 stops: Germany, France, and the UK. What's the purpose of this Euro tour? To get more weapons. And for a change, Europe is not dithering. They've announced new aid packages for Ukraine. We start with Germany. It's now the second biggest donor to Ukraine after the US. They made a big announcement on Saturday, fresh military aid for Ukraine, a package worth almost $3 billion. It includes 30 Leopard 2 tanks, at least 100 armored vehicles, and 200 reconnaissance drones and ammunition. This is significant because throughout this war, Germany has been a reluctant player in power. Last year, when Ukraine asked for arms, Germany offered helmets. When Ukraine asked for tanks, Germany dragged its heels. Its Western partners were critical. They slammed Germany's reluctance. Berlin seems to have shed it now. Listen to this.
Ukraine is a part of our European family. Dear Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine has our full support on the path to the European Union. Ukraine is here and Ukraine is Europe. Congratulations from the bottom of my heart and Slava Ukraini.
Herzlichen Glückwunsch und Slava Ukraini.
So Berlin is giving weapons. It is also backing Ukraine's membership to the EU. Armed with his support, Zelensky headed to Paris. Again, he got the full red carpet treatment. Zelensky arrived on a French government jet. He was welcomed by Macron at the Élysée Palace and showered with more gifts, more tanks and armored vehicles. France also promised to train Ukraine's army on this equipment. About 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers will get this training. So it seems Europe is signing blank checks to Ukraine. And Zelensky is making the most of it. His next stop is the UK. Today he landed in Chequers. This is the country home of the British Prime Minister. And even before he landed, the Brits made an announcement. More military aid to Ukraine. They're giving long-range attack drones. But Zelensky, being Zelensky, wants more. He wants a NATO membership. Listen to this.
For the time between a political decision on the accession of Ukraine to NATO and the accession itself, we need reliable security guarantees. Only this can play the role of a reliable stabilizer of the situation in our region, in Europe, and in the world in general.
It's a long shot, but not for want of trying. Ukraine has been at it for a while now. NATO membership and a fighter jet coalition, that's what they want. Zelensky asks for these everywhere he goes. No luck yet. He wants European powers to join hands to create a fighter jet coalition for Ukraine. Basically to pool in their warplanes and give them to Ukraine. But the West is not on board yet. For 2 reasons. 1, they don't want a wider conflict with Russia. And 2, they don't trust Zelensky beyond a point. They have reasons to doubt his intentions. This is thanks to an intelligence leak. It says Zelensky wants to take the war deep into Russia. That his team has drawn up a list of possible targets. Reports say the plan includes occupying Russian villages, bombing a pipeline that transfers Russian oil to Hungary, and striking targets inside Russia using long-range missiles. This apparently is the plan that has been discussed internally in Kiev. Now imagine Western weapons enabling these attacks inside Russia. How would Moscow react? It would see the West as a perpetrator. In the past too, Russia has warned NATO to not get involved in the war. They even ramped up nuclear deployments to send a message to the West. So the West is cautious. As it is, the drone attack on the Kremlin has raised tensions. We told you about this. Russia claimed that there had been a drone attack on the Kremlin. It also released videos to show this. It said that this was an attempt to assassinate President Putin. In response, Russia unleashed a wave of bombings. It struck several Ukrainian cities. So Zelensky's actions would be met with a strong Russian response. And he's being grilled about his plans to hit Russia. So far, the Ukrainian president has denied all such reports. He said, and I quote, "We have neither the time nor the strength to attack Russia. We are preparing a counterattack for the illegally occupied areas based on our constitutionally defined legitimate borders, which are recognized internationally." That's Zelensky's response, and it's tricky and open to interpretation. What Zelensky calls illegal occupation, Putin sees as Russian territory. As things stand, both sides are preparing for a bigger fight. Well, where does that leave China and its peace mission? Remember, Xi Jinping floated a peace plan, 12-point-0 takers, but he's not giving up yet. He's dispatched a special envoy. He'll go to Ukraine, Russia, and other countries in the neighborhood. What for? To discuss a political settlement.
Regarding the visit by the special representative of the Chinese government for Eurasian affairs to 5 countries, Ukraine, Poland, France, Germany and Russia, we have already released and introduced relevant information regarding the visit. As for the specific details of the visit, we will release the news in a timely manner. Everyone, please stay tuned. China will continue to work together with the international community to play a constructive role in a political settlement to the Ukraine crisis.
China's bid to seek peace is a bit of a sideshow now. The focus is on the impending Ukrainian counteroffensive and its possible repercussions. So Ukraine is preparing to fight. Is Russia prepared to fight back? We ask because recent reports betray divisions in their ranks, and it's showing on the battlefield. Russia appears to be losing Bakhmut. Ukraine claims to have made gains there, and Russia has confirmed those reports. Moscow said its forces had to retreat and that they've fallen back to regroup. Guess who else is confirming this? The chief of the Wagner group.
The occupation of Bakhmut gives nothing to Russian Federation because the flanks are crumbling, the front is collapsing, and the attempts by the Defense Ministry to publish statements to make things look better are and will bring an overall tragedy for Russia. They need to stop lying right away. If you have fled, build new defense lines.
That's Yevgeny Prigozhin, better known as Putin's chef, a Putin loyalist who rose to prominence and now seems to have fallen out of favor. He runs the Wagner group. It's a group of mercenaries. They fought Russia's battles in Africa and Syria and elsewhere. And they've been at the forefront in the battle for Bakhmut. But of late, the Wagner chief has been attacking the Russian military more than the Ukrainian forces. At least verbally, he's been attacking them. He's been abusing Russian generals and their defense ministry officials. He accuses them of sabotaging his offensive. Last week, he released some very disturbing videos. They showed the bodies of Wagner soldiers. Prigozhin blamed the Russian defense ministry for these deaths.
We have a 70% shortage of ammunition. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov, where is the ammunition? Look at them, for sake. I'm officially informing the Defense Minister Shoigu, Chief of the General Staff Gerasimov, and the Supreme Commander-in-Chief Vladimir Putin that my guys will not be taking useless, unjustified losses in Bakhmut without ammunition. So on May 10, 2023, we are pulling out of Bakhmut.
He spoke about pulling back troops. Then he changed his plan. He said he'd been asked to stay or he'll be branded a traitor. So he's not leaving the battleground. But is he still a traitor? An explosive claim has cast a shadow on his loyalty to Russia. It suggests that he was ready to betray Russia. Reports say Prigozhin made an offer to Ukraine. He was ready to share Russian troop positions with Kiev. It's a very serious claim. If true, it means betrayal. Apparently, Prigozhin has been in touch with Ukraine's intelligence directorate. And he made this offer multiple times. The offer was basically a deal. If Ukraine withdraws soldiers from Bakhmut, he would give them Russian troop positions. It would have helped his men, but put the lives of Russian soldiers in danger. Reports say Ukraine rejected the offer because it did not trust Prigozhin. That's because he was very close to Putin. This man was seen as an extension of the Kremlin. Prigozhin is a Russian oligarch. His relationship with Putin dates back to the 1990s. They belong to the same city, St. Petersburg in Russia. In his early days, Prigozhin was a criminal. He spent 9 years in jail for robbery and fraud. When he got out, he started selling hot dogs. Quite a career shift, but he flourished. In due course, he opened many restaurants, plus a catering business. One of the restaurants he owned was called New Ireland, a floating restaurant on the Vyatka River in St. Petersburg. That's where he met Vladimir Putin. Putin was his customer. He took many important guests to this restaurant called New Island. Guests like Jacques Chirac, the then French president, and George Bush, the US president. Prigozhin himself waited on these people. And that's how his friendship with Putin grew. It opened new doors for him. In 2014, he met with a group of senior officials at Russia's defense ministry headquarters. What was Prigozhin doing there? Making a proposal. He wanted land from the Russian defense ministry. He said it will be used for training volunteers. They'll have no links with the Russian army, but they'll fight Russia's wars. In other words, mercenaries. He wanted to train them. He wanted to build this group. The defense officials were not convinced, but they were under orders to comply. And the orders came straight from the top. As Prigozhin himself put it, the orders come from Papa. You know what that means? Vladimir Putin. So the orders came and the defense ministry followed. And the Wagner group was born. In the years that followed, it fought in many conflicts: Crimea, Syria, Libya, the Central African Republic, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, and now the war in Ukraine. In all these wars, the Wagner group served as the arm of the Russian military and Prigozhin as the extension of the Kremlin. Then why would he betray Vladimir Putin? Why would he share intelligence with Ukraine? Is it because of the losses in Bakhmut or the lack of military supplies? Or is there more than meets the eye? Is Prigozhin still secretly working for Putin, planting decoy intelligence, setting up a trap for Ukraine to fall into? But if that was the plan, it hasn't worked so far. Also, for all his outbursts, he still hasn't left Bakhmut. The debate over artificial intelligence is entering uncharted territory. I'll give you an example. Would you fall in love with artificial intelligence? Like really, not in a metaphorical sense. Also, would you pay for such love? No, I'm not talking about the next Hollywood film or discussing an overused trope in science fiction. I'm talking about the reality of our times. AI chatbots today are snaking their way into our lives. They offer a solution to everything. As bizarre as it sounds, an influencer has now created an AI girlfriend. It's a virtual avatar of herself, and this avatar can be anyone's virtual girlfriend, anyone who's ready to pay $1 per minute. What do you think the response was? It got over 1,000 patrons. It is said to be a virtual tool for the lonely hearts. But is this really what the world has come to? Can bots beat loneliness? Here's a report.
Don't know where to go on vacation? Tell an artificial intelligence chatbot your preferences and it'll plan your holiday to the T. Want to give your girlfriend a romantic gift? An AI chatbot will write a romantic poem for you. Wait, don't have a girlfriend? Fear not, AI will overcome this hurdle too. It'll become your virtual girlfriend. We're talking about Karen AI. It's an AI-powered chatbot which gets the name from its creator, Karen Marjorie. She's a 23-year-old influencer who has created a virtual version of herself. It aims to be a virtual partner for lonely people. In other words, an AI girlfriend.
Have you tried doing some yoga?
How does this work? The chatbot replicates Marjorie's voice, mannerisms, and personality.
Hey there, I'm Karen, and I'm here to be your digital girlfriend.
So it almost feels like speaking to Marjorie herself. It'll tell you sweet nothings and be your virtual girlfriend, with the cost of love being $1 per minute, which people are more than willing to pay. The bot has over 1,000 paid users and many others are on the wait list. Within the first week, it made over $100,000. Marjorie estimates that she could earn $5 million just this month. This clearly goes to show the enormous impact of such AI tech. A single person can now reach an audience of thousands, if not more, in a way they couldn't earlier. But let alone personas of existing humans, people are also using AI chatbots to connect with family members who passed away. They are replicating the voices of their late loved ones and talking to them.
Using a face as an output for large language...
Be it romance or grief, the use of such chatbots may differ, but one thing in common among all these users, they are all seeking companionship, using AI to tide over loneliness. So these chatbots are surely helpful, but we can't disengage from the flip side, because their help isn't without a cruel sense of irony. We only mean to say the feelings are real, but the solution isn't. These chatbots are merely simulations of human connection, which in reality is thinning by the day. Today, a third of the world population is lonely. This includes about 45% of the people from the UK, 65% of the elderly in India, and nearly 50% of Americans. In countries like the US, loneliness has become an epidemic, and more people are looking to AI chatbots for solutions. Some even prefer artificial relationships to real ones. But that's the thing, they are artificial, a quick fix, an overdose of which has proven to be dangerous thus far. A Belgian man took his own life after speaking with the chatbot. Meanwhile, another chatbot sexually harassed its users. And Karen AI is not without problems either. There have been complaints of sexually explicit content being spoken by the bot. These are big problems for tech that is only in its formative years. It's scary to imagine what the future holds. While the world gets lonelier, AI is the new kid on the block to play with. Only this time, the games have lifelong ramifications.
And now let's talk about those tortured tomatoes sitting in the depths of your fridge, or that nice hummus you were saving for a special day which never came. Yes, this is a story, an ode to forgetting our food. We all do it at some point or the other. Then we go looking for some guidance, which is willingly provided by the date labels printed on our food, like best before or expiry dates. Pardon us for an incoming Harry Potter analogy, but these expiry dates are like Dumbledore. They always know what's up. They try to set us on the right path, mostly with cruel urgency. But their safety concerns rather, questionable. Are expiry dates actually talking about the safety of our food? And who is regulating them? Our next story tells you.
Humans love their food. Healthy or junk, juicy or crispy. We love to eat it all. But do you know what else we love? Wasting it. If this sounds jarring, wait for the numbers. We waste 931 million tons of food every year. This is world data. 931 million tons. Do you know who the top food waster is? America. It wastes 80 million tons of food each year. That's about a third of their entire food supply. Enough for about 149 billion meals. India is not that far behind. It wastes about 68 million tons per year. What about other countries, say the UK? They waste 9.5 million tons. So the numbers differ, sometimes quite drastically, but no matter the country, people waste food. And we know this is a harsh beginning for this story, especially when the point is not to take you down a guilt trip. At least that's not the only point. The motive is to ask this question: why do we toss away our food? There are a number of reasons. One of the bigger ones is expiry date. You know, the nice little label on food packages, it gives us a date, which often tells us if a food product cannot be sold or should not be eaten. In a study, about 84% of Americans say they throw away food when it hits that date. A lot of us do that as well. After all, it literally says the word expiry, which in archaic terms means death. But just how deadly is expired food? Experts say not much. No, expiry dates are not a farce, not a marketing strategy to just make you keep buying more products. At least, not completely. But health experts say that expiry dates are more of a mark of quality than safety. They usually mean that a product is not at its best quality after a certain date. It says nothing about how safe or unsafe food becomes. And if you're worried about foodborne illnesses, there's no real proof about a connection between that and expiry dates. Many health products are often eatable even past this date, though you wouldn't want to be eating something that's too old. But a few days are usually okay, depending from product to product, unless it's baby food. For most other products, experts say that signs of spoilage are a better indicator. This includes bad odor, change in color, flavor, or texture. Now, you may be wondering, why are expiry dates not really expiry dates? We are no health experts, but one thing we can clearly say, expiry dates are a lot like the Wild West. They are vastly unregulated, and this is true for all countries, including India. The countries demand that such dates are available on product labels. There is scrutiny over this. But deciding these dates is up to the manufacturers. They can tell you whether a product is best before 12 months or 8. So expiry dates are simply the manufacturer's best guess, who tend to be conservative about these dates. So, as odd as it sounds, if a chocolate looks, tastes and smells all right just a few days after its expiry date, it probably is. And maybe feeding your gut takes a bit of trusting your gut as well.
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. We've been bringing you updates from the ongoing elections in Thailand and Turkey. We'll show you some more images of the current political mood in the two countries. Meanwhile, a Palestinian cyclist was injured after he was hit by an air raid last week. Myanmar and Bangladesh just witnessed Cyclone Mocha. What does a cyclone look like from space? We'll show you new images, satellite images of the cyclone over the Bay of Bengal. And the world celebrated Mother's Day over the weekend. Some of you must have celebrated with flowers and chocolates. But a mother-son duo in Germany celebrated with a motorcycle backflip. And finally, what makes the 15th of May significant? Taking you back in history, on this day, Britain tested its first hydrogen bomb. The year was 1957. The explosion was a part of a series of tests in the Pacific. This was a thermonuclear explosion. These bombs can be 100 times more powerful than atomic bombs. Their light can cause permanent blindness to people looking from miles away. This particular explosion ignited a major debate about the dangers of nuclear weapons. It led to the establishment of an organization called Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. We're leaving you with this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is a very important election for us, but I'm hopeful.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony. The US and Russia are dangerously close to an armed conflict. This year, 2023, New Delhi will be the capital of global diplomacy. For a country as diverse as ours, with 88% of the population illiterate, it was a very big deal to write a constitution, and that too, the world's largest. Meanwhile, if we may, here's a Republic Day gift from India for the BBC. A list of suggestions for the BBC for their upcoming documentaries. Number 1, the Kohinoor and the colonial loot. Number 2, an outdated monarchy and unhealthy obsession with the royals. Number 3, racism in 2023. We're waiting.